Hello, everybody. So today I am going to get into Brexit, or the British leaving or exiting of the European Union, and whether or not that might spell potential doom for the European Union. So, something to watch out for. Okay, now it's important to understand that Great Britain, or United Kingdom, is made up of four major areas here. We have England, Wales, which we commonly refer to as Wales, which by far has the coolest flag, Scotland in the north, and of course Northern Ireland. Scotland and Northern Ireland are going to play some interesting roles here, and so this is actually one of the reasons why I wanted to explain kind of the division of Great Britain as a whole. Okay, so what is this Brexit thing? I'm not going to get into the background of it. I'm going to talk about some of the issues as we move forward. But basically, on June 23rd, 2016, the citizens of Britain voted to leave the European Union by about a 52% to 48% vote. As a result, the Prime Minister at that time, David Cameron, who had pledged that if Britain left the European Union or voted to leave the European Union, he would resign. And he indeed does resign. Now, the new prime minister that takes over is a woman by the name of Theresa May, and she navigates the British Parliament to then invoke Article 50 of the Charter of the European Union, stating that they are going to leave. And so initially, they are given to March of 2019 to complete the responsibilities to leave. There's a variety of different things that had to get done, and they had until March of 2019 to do it. Now, why did they want to leave? One was immigration issues, and particularly with refugees and Syrian refugees, with the issues that were going on in Syria at the time, and that many people felt that England was not able to have a proper immigration policy because it had to adhere to what the European Union was doing, and many people didn't like that. And a lot of people felt that if you have less people coming in from abroad, particularly immigrants, that they could control, that wages would go up and unemployment would go down. All right. Many people feel that they pay too much money into the European Union. Great Britain definitely puts in much more than most other nations, and that it actually isn't even used for them. A big feel of nationalism, sovereignty over themselves, and not having to be beholden to the European Union anymore. And the idea of developing better trade deals, that they don't like the European trade deals, that they're not beneficial to the United Kingdom, and they want to do their own. But what starts to happen is that there becomes like two approaches to this. So initially it was just a hard Brexit, we're out, we hate everything. But that starts to change because, unfortunately, they end up missing their March deadline, and that deadline gets extended to Halloween in 2019. So option one was the hard Brexit, that you're out, you put limits on immigrations, you adhere to World Trade Organization trade deals, and then you have very strict borders. That border thing's going to be important. Soft Brexit is you do things like you leave the court system, but you stay part of the the European single market. No trade barriers. People can offer services like law and engineering across national boundaries. Britain has to pay a fee for it, but Norway does it, and it seems to work pretty well for them. A little bit looser on the borders, but then if you do that, you actually have no say on how the European Union runs itself. And so you now have these kind of polar forces, and some of the people in Parliament and some of the UK citizens who were not in favor of leaving see this as maybe a good compromise. But then some other things start to develop. Here becomes the question of, well, foreign nationals who have jobs in England, are they going to be forced to leave because you're no longer in the European Union? You're going to force them out. Same thing, UK citizens abroad, are they going to get booted from jobs and positions that they have? We see an initial drop in the value of the British pound. There was some, how will it impact the UK economy? It's doing okay for the most part right now, but we have to see how that gets adjusted. And then you get the issue of Scotland leaving, which I'll be talking about a little bit more as well. But Scotland in general had voted overwhelmingly in favor of staying as part of the European Union. And in recent years, there's been at least one vote of Scotland getting independence from Britain, and this starts to bring up that idea again. And that idea is kind of headed up by the Scottish First Minister, Nicola Sturgeon. The other issue is the borders of Northern Ireland, okay? Because this is crucial, because it's really easy for England to keep its borders shut because, it's an island. But Northern Ireland does border the Republic of Ireland. And this is problematic because if you're going to make that hard border, many people think that that is going to put more strain on the peace that had been achieved in the late 1990s. And so the backstop idea is that perhaps Northern Ireland can kind of stay part of the European Union. They will check certain goods as they come in, but that border between Ireland and North Ireland will remain open, and North Ireland will have access to the European economic market. But this has caused some strain here. And again, in general, Northern Ireland was also in favor of staying in the European Union. Unfortunately for Theresa May, she just struggles on figuring out a way to get deals in. Cabinet members repeatedly resign. She brings 2 votes to the parliament. They're both knocked down. And then at one point, her party actually loses the majority in parliament. And many people were doubting, well, now is Brexit dead? Or are they going to just kind of go crawling back? She asks for another extension from the Halloween date. The European Union says no. And then on June 24th, 2019, Theresa May resigns. And that will bring in former London Mayor Boris Johnson. The system is very interesting. You can look it up. But look, on July 24th, 2019, Boris Johnson comes in, and he's still currently the Prime Minister of England as I am making this in April of 2020. His stated goal was to unite the country and deliver Brexit. And again, how are they going to proceed? How are they going to get this done? And early on, it's not working. He tries to suspend Parliament and get a new one elected. His first wave of that doesn't actually work. The English Supreme Court then rules that some of his actions are illegal. And again, all of this stuff just seems to be rolling toward not having a Brexit. But then, Boris Johnson pivots. And he says, okay, I got a new plan. Most of Britain is out, but Northern Ireland will keep its open border and stay in the EU customs, so for economics, until a specific deal was reached later. All right, he goes to the EU, says, look, I don't have a ton of support for this right now, although that will build, and I need another deadline. The EU says, okay. And what ends up happening is that no deal is reached on how to leave the European Union. Parliament gets dissolved on November 6, 2019, to allow for new elections to be held on December 12th. They're then able to get the new deadline from the EU backed up to January 31st, 2020. And the party of Brexit has a huge day. Boris Johnson is able to get a lot of consensus over Brexit. The Conservatives campaign very, very well. And they have a huge win and get a huge majority to the point where they actually don't need any other parties to pass it. Interesting note, Nicola Sturgeon's Scottish National Party also wins very big, so keeping an eye out on potential Scotland leaving is something we're going to look at in the future. Brexit is going to happen, and they start to work on a trade deal as well with the EU. And on January 31st, 2020, Britain leaves. They are out. Now, the full plans for Northern Ireland aren't there. They're still working on trade deals and independence. But This is going to be something that we have to watch. What are we watching? We're going to watch. Are other nations going to follow suit? There are some rumblings in other nations like Italy, for instance, that might want to leave. We have to see how this is going to impact Northern Ireland, how this is going to impact Scotland, and overall the financial health of the European Union. But as far as the European Union is concerned, outside of its creation, this is probably the most significant event, and we'll have to see where it goes. All right, guys, take care. Hopefully you learned a little bit of something here, and I'll see you soon.